But I'm very pleased to be joined now by Dr. Bhasha Mukherjee, who's coming to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining me. This is an important statement by Wes Streeting, isn't it?
I think so. And I think I like that the Labour Party are taking the point of view of embracing change. And I think the public needs to as well, because the demographic of the UK has changed. We're not what we used to be 20 years ago. The population is neither racially, culturally, financially the same anymore. And I do think we all need to embrace this change. And actually, I'm looking forward to what Wes Streeting will do as potentially the future health secretary. Well,
and even if he isn't, he's made this topic discussable, whereas previously it was a competition as to who would give the NHS more money. And I think one of his most important comments is that putting more money in is like putting water in a leaky bucket, that it's about structures rather than just money.
I 100% agree. I think there's so much wastage in the NHS, and personally, it just breaks your heart to see the money that actually is not free. People think that the NHS is free. It's not. We are paying for it every day from our national insurance and various other ways of taxation. But people are not getting what they're paying for. And that's because of extreme amounts of wastage. You've just got to walk down a corridor in a hospital, in any hospital in any parts of the country, to see broken beds, broken IT, which people have paid for, but they're just left after they've been bought. They cost a lot, by the way.
And why do you think this is? What do you think's been leading to this waste? Because obviously good and competent people are working in the NHS. They want to do it well. So why are the beds left broken and the IT problems we've known about for many years?
I am still trying to figure this out, Mr. Mogg. You know, I'm thinking this is just down to generation after generation of people being burnt out. I worry that, do people just not care anymore? Are people just so numb to all the things that are going wrong around them? I've felt that in certain points where I've looked at the waiting list in A&E and it's been 8 hours, and you just end up smirking to yourself because nothing surprises you anymore. And I worry that that's what the current NHS is turning all the clinical staff into. But that does not excuse for the number of managerial staff we have. We have 50% managerial to 50% clinical, but we're a clinical service. So why is the weightage so heavily on managerial?
But that comes back again and again, doesn't it, about shouldn't the clinicians be managing? And then the next thing you have is complaints that the clinicians are spending their time managing rather than being clinicians. And that's another of the difficult problems in the NHS. So do you think buying in some private sector resource will help, or is that going to be a small part of the solution?
I think as a clinical person myself, it's really difficult to say exactly what the solution is. But I do think that our population needs to be prepared to be more frugal with their use of the healthcare system and not be abusive of it. And currently, we still have a very a mindset of trying to abuse the system just because you can, just because it's free. And I worry that, is this a problem that we're almost advertising to other countries as well, with people coming over to this country to do health tourism, or even people who are coming in with immigrant status and just using the services without necessarily paying any money into the national insurance, or they're not contributing taxes at all.
That's a really interesting point about people taking a free service for granted. Because it's just there, they think, well, I may as well go to A&E, even though it's something that I could probably take a couple of aspirin for. And then you get your 8-hour waits. With people who have serious conditions, and we've seen in the papers today, the numbers who may actually be dying because they're not being seen by A&E in time, then having to wait longer because... Now, how do you change that in a system that's free at the point of use, which the country's very attached to as a principle?
I think we underestimate our population and the human mind. We were able to make such rapid change in the mindsets of people in terms of when we were dealing with the pandemic, in terms of educating our population on hand washing, mask usage, and the population complied. How did we achieve that? I think patient education is absolutely central to this. And this needs to start absolutely at the grassroots level, from school level, in fact, of getting a baseline understanding of health education, understanding what conditions can be something you can manage at home versus you need to go into hospital for. Because that's exactly what you're saying, that currently, just because of the number of patients that are turning up at A&Es, unfortunately, the more unwell patients are the ones that are going to be at disadvantage.
And one of the interesting discussions I had with the manager of a hospital was that during the junior doctors' strike, where more consultants were involved, they were willing to make faster decisions. And therefore you got through the numbers in A&E, and they're thinking of restructuring in the hospital concerned to have more consultants on duty because of the faster flow. So there are structural things that can be done.
That's an interesting point you make. I'm not sure if that's a sustainable model, though, because consultants, if they are doing what something is a little bit, I suppose, somebody slightly less experienced is able to do, then we're going to compromise their action on what they do best, essentially, yeah.
But it's interesting this conversation's now started, and we're not just in that trench of more money.
I agree with that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mukherjee, for joining me. Coming up, I will be breaking my silence on the William Ragg Westminster honey trap affair as the Metropolitan Police announces an investigation. And don't forget, I'll be talking about what happened to billions of pounds of your money with my government predecessor.